You're going to take ownership and realize you are your greatest asset in life. Nobody can help you more than you can help yourself.
Welcome to Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm Gina Cazazza, the author of the book, Training with a SEAL. I'm saying finally author of the book because I just started releasing chapters on Substack. So if you guys are on Substack, go on over there and start reading the chapters of the book. I mean, I've talked about it in the last 70-something episodes, and it is finally arriving. And I am excited about this guest, by the way, because speaking of me with my book, Training with a SEAL, this person is an author of a book that I've read before I even knew that he was going to be a guest on the show. I'm really excited. He's a former Green Beret, a speaker, a coach, a podcaster. Now his new podcast is The Asset Mindset. And for those of you that are like, oh, The Asset Mindset, yes, that's because he's the author of the book, The Asset Mindset. That is how I know him. And this book has not just helped me, but thousands of others shift from self-doubt to self-discipline. He's a martial arts champion. He's from elite special forces. He's protected celebrities. He helps people build unshakable confidence, and he lived the mindset he now teaches. He's proof that your life can change the moment you decide to think like an asset, not a liability. We will definitely talk about that one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited to introduce you to Daniel Fielding. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that amazing intro. I feel like I walk among giants, and then I hear you read my bio, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe I kind of should be with these people. But no, seriously,
100%, yeah.
Thank you. That was a great intro. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate the invite, and I love your message and what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I like your book. It's just caught my eye. You have great cover, by the way. And that's what caught my eye. And I was just like, I'm intrigued. And then picked it up and started reading it and everything like that. I usually go into the origin and all that stuff, but because I am such a fan of your show and you got your podcast, which is The Asset Mindset, the podcast, tell me a little bit about that because it's brand new. I've never listened to it. I didn't know you had it. Is it similar to the book? Are you picking out chapters from the book? And then mention your book a little bit for those listeners that don't know.
I'm going to start, I guess, go in chronological order.
Great.
So I was working as a DoD contractor. I was away from home, working with active duty units, doing things and mentoring and coaching. And then I would do that at home with friends and family. And I have an interesting story. So everybody was like, write a book, write a book.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, maybe, but I'm in a hotel room at night after training or working or being on the road with these military units. And I was like, okay, I'll start doing it. And that's kind of how the asset mindset came about as far as writing it and having that space. And I also wanted to take our special forces motto, Deo Oppressor Liber, to free the oppressed, into the civilian world, because it's a very powerful message. And I think some of your other guests, like Ryan Hendrickson, have been on and might have mentioned that as well, because every Green Beret, we really do want to fight oppression in the world. And I think a lot of people, especially right now, oppress themselves with their own mind and their way of thinking and victim mentality. So I wanted to write a book to help people overcome that and change their lives. I was self-published at first, and then I ended up getting a random email and message, and I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? Because sometimes in life, doors open, and you're like, is this even possible? But it was someone from Simon & Schuster. They were interested in my book, and they're one of the largest publishers in the world. They wanted to buy the rights to my book.
Noble. That's where I picked it up.
So I did the deal, sold the rights to my book, and was able to get it more on a larger stage. And it's helping people immensely. I've had a 92-year-old woman, which is surprising, right? 92, you think they have life figured out or whatever. She said my book changed her life. She actually went out and got a job again at 92 because she's like, I don't want to just sit at home. I only have so much time left. I want to get out and be active and have a mindset where I'm giving back. So that was amazing. I've had a teenager talk to me about how it's helped them with the loss of their grandmother. Because in the book, as you know, I talk about the loss of my dad. and how I was able to shift my focus from the negative to the positive.
Mm-hmm.
So all this was going on, and then someone reached out because I've been doing podcasts like here, being a guest, and they're like, your book is helping so many people. Why don't you do the Asset Mindset podcast where you can have guests on that have overcome obstacles or struggles in life or have reached the elite levels of success that I talk about in my book, and have them share their story and share their knowledge and nuggets. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm taking the Asset Mindset book and I'm bringing it to a live podcast where people get to learn not just from me and my asset mindset, but other people out there that have the asset mindset. Because I try and remind people all the time, you do not have to be special forces to have the asset mindset. However, if you want to be in special forces, you might want to have the asset mindset because otherwise you won't make it. You got to take ownership of your life and do all those things. And it's been fun. It's an incredible journey. I never thought it would happen, but here I am.
What a ride. What a ride, right? That's exciting. I'm going to have to check out that podcast. In my intro to you, I mentioned in the line, you're proof that life can change the moment you decide to think like an asset, not a liability. What exactly does that mean?
Oh, it's just taking ownership of your life,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you are your greatest asset. You, the listener, myself, we all have the most influence in our life. Nobody can help us more than we can help ourselves. So when you take that ownership and you realize you are your greatest asset, you have to get yourself up in the morning. You have to apply for that job. You have to do whatever it is you're trying to do. Eat healthy. People can't do these things for you. They can coach you, they can tell you, they can mentor you, but you have to take ownership of that and realize you are your greatest ally, advocate, asset, whatever it is you want to term it. Otherwise, then you're a liability. And if you're just eating Doritos and coming home from work and sitting on the couch and binging on Netflix, guess what? You're not going to be healthy. Your mind's not going to be right. So you need to do things that are positive and shift your energy on that. And that all starts with mindset and belief. Because once you believe you can change and you can make a difference in your life and the world and the people around you, that's game changing. Because how many people are going around the world like, oh, I can't do anything about this. I'm stuck, or I hate this job.
Oh,
or I
that
hate where I
saying,
live.
what did that saying, it is what it is, that drives me nuts. Or like, it is what it is. I go, until it isn't. You always forget that last part of the saying, until it isn't. And guess who gets to make it? It isn't. You. But then people just go, it is what it is. And it just like drives me. That's my banana sandwich thing, because I'm like, no, I'm driving the ship. Like I remember when I was in high school and I got some honor thing, and we had to, and they made a video, that the school decided to make a video of all of us, and they would present it to the parents and things like that, and they asked you questions. And one of the questions that they asked me, they were like, is there anyone that you would like to thank for getting you here at this point? And I was like, of course. And they're like, who would you like to thank? And I'm like, myself. And they played that in at my mom sitting there, and she's like mortified. She's like, everybody else was thanking the teachers, the parents. I'm like, they didn't do the work. I was like, I was there. I did all the work. I'm like, not you. I'm like, I should get some recognition. I'm thanking me. But no, I'm really big into the taking accountability, taking ownership. Also, not leaving it up to my external, not my, but more, the internal, that shifts. When you talk about, what would you say in terms of, speaking of like ownership and all that stuff, what's the very first like mindset shift that you feel like someone would need to make when they feel like they're in that survival mode, like barely making it? They feel like they're I guess surviving, essentially, not thriving or anything like that. They're just existing. That's a good way to say it. Just existing.
Well, I would say the first thing is you're not a tree. You're not stuck where you're at. You're a human being. You're alive. You can move. You can change your surroundings. You can change whatever it is that's really bothering you. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Please don't get me wrong on some of these things. And if you're in a tough spot in life, it's going to be difficult. But other people, other human beings have been in tough spots too. People are blind, but they can read with Braille. It's a little harder probably for them to learn to read, right? But they can still do it. People have lost limbs. They don't have legs anymore. But guess what? They learn how to run again with prosthetics. So understand that's the ownership or taking control. So whatever situation you're in, you're truly not stuck. If you believe you're stuck, that's you limiting your mind. Don't do that. Don't limit yourself. That's a problem when you say, oh, I can't. Especially in special forces, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, MARSOC, whoever, any other tier, whatever unit, we don't say, oh, we can't do that. It's how do I? You, the listener, needs to start saying, how do I do things? When as soon as you hear that little voice or whatever it is, or that negativity come in like, oh, I can't. Change that. Say, ooh, that should be a trigger. People talk about triggers. Triggers can be a good thing if you know how to use them. So if you hear I can't, then figure out, okay, how do I in your head? And if you do that technique, I think it'll really help you. Because today, we don't really have excuses. There's the internet. There's cell phones, in your pocket right now. What do you want to learn? You want to know, how long does a zebra live? You can Google it, or chat GPT, or you want to know about weather and what type of clouds there are. Like, you can be a subject matter expert in anything if you put the time in. So there's really no excuses. And if you're making an excuse, you're just allowing yourself to be a victim of your own mindset.
100%. Yeah. And, it's funny. Sometimes I, as an entrepreneur, especially running a nonprofit, no clue what I'm doing. I just get these ideas and I'm just like, okay, I'll go do that. Right. Because in my mind, it's like, and there's a difference, I guess, in a way between like hard work and, what's the best way to explain it? Like for me, doing a pull-up for the first time was hard because I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do it at all. My body would not go up. So I had to spend time training. And then months later, I was able to do my first pull-up. And that to me was hard work, right? But like for myself, when it comes to the entrepreneur stuff of it being a grant writer or, or booking a school, I don't find that hard. I'm sending an email out, right? There's no challenge in sending an email or picking up the phone for me. Maybe other people don't like picking up the phone. Maybe that's challenging. But like, I find that though my body tends to get into it tenses up when I have to do like a new grant or I have to like send out all these emails and I have to, like you mentioned, these triggers, right? I recognize like, okay, why am I suddenly going into this like fight or flight, this freeze, this stress mode? It has to get done, or this is so much work and my body like tightens up and I have to allow myself to breathe and understand like we're just sending emails. Like it's not, I guess in a way it's like I have to hit a certain number of people to respond to me and you're getting rejection after rejection and you wonder, am I going to fill my program? Like, am I going to get these 50 schools? Am I going to get these sponsors? Right. And that's what causes that stress, but understanding the body, understanding yourself, knowing who you are. What are some ways that people could discover things about themselves that they normally, like for myself, I know like the moment my body tenses, it's going into that fight or flight. It needs to breathe. How can we discover things like that? And how can we start training our mindset to recognize the difference between something that is hard versus something that we just don't want to do? Because we just don't want to we don't want to put in the work.
Yeah, people like to stay comfortable.
They like comfort. Yeah.
We like comfort. But to grow, you need to get out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is, we touched on it briefly, but I didn't mention, the term is reframing. Mm-hmm. You need to reframe your thoughts and your beliefs. Your beliefs will help you create your mindset. So let's look at fear. You talked about sending emails, or somebody's fearful to go to the gym because people are going to look at them and they're going to be weak, or whatever it may be. Whatever your fear is, you have a presentation at work. All these things you let stop you. Well, those things, you can reframe them. Especially, there's the acronym that people use a lot, and I like to use also: fear, false evidence appearing real. So when you're having fear, you're projecting that into the future. So you're thinking, oh, I give this presentation, I'm going to look foolish, or people are going to think I'm stupid, or all these things have never even happened. You're putting it out there, you're letting your mind think that, and you're, in a sense, setting yourself up, because what you believe is true, you're going to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I like to take fear and reframe that. And people that I coach or I talk to, or like here on your podcast, I want you to start seeing fear as an amazing, fantastic thing. I know it sounds crazy, but guess what? Anything that was ever amazing that was done or accomplished, or someone had to face something and had triumph, guess what? Fear was involved, because that's an opportunity to be brave, to be courageous. Those are life-changing events. You say someone wants to have a family and have a kid. Oh, I'm scared to have a kid. It's a lot of responsibility and a lot of fear. But guess what? When you do it, and then you are brave and have to deal with it, and later on you look back, and most parents are like, that was the best thing I ever did. I couldn't imagine my life without my children. Or a change for a job. Someone goes for a promotion and they're scared, like, oh, I have more responsibility now. Then they do it and they're like, wow, that was, one of the best decisions I ever made. So when you have fear, I want you to reframe that and not just be scared. I'm not saying you shouldn't have fear, because you absolutely should. It's part of giving your body and soul and everything energy, and gives you that fire to move, or fight or flight, like you're saying. But fear is an opportunity. Anytime, whatever it is in your life, when you have fear, think of it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to be brave. It's an opportunity for you to be courageous. It's an opportunity for you to grow. So if you can reframe that and not have this negative connotation or this negative belief attached to fear, you will now start having a different mindset, thinking, wow, I can do this, or, ooh, this is going to be exciting. I wonder where this is going to lead, So you can reframe whatever thoughts you have in your mind, like, oh, I'm stupid, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm not stupid. I need to learn X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is. So reframing your thoughts is very powerful for changing your mindset. And when you change your mindset, then you start changing your life.
Now, at what point did you start getting into this stuff? Because was it something that you've had as in childhood? Was it something that you discovered when you were, going through special forces? At what point were you really in and deep into this stuff?
I didn't really get deep in probably till maybe my teenage years with martial arts. But I get this question a lot, like, hey, what triggered, your asset mindset philosophy? And I've put a lot of thought into it. And now I try and explain it as, think of a great oak tree, this giant oak tree. Well, guess what? It starts off as a little acorn. It doesn't one day all of a sudden become this great oak. And that's pretty much what happened to me. So I was young. I was a little acorn seed. And my dad mentored me, taught me some things about life, hard work, gave me belief in myself. And then I went to martial arts. And, I have a Dragon Warrior code that I'm sure you read in my book. It's, I am what I am because I choose to be, is the first line. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty powerful. Yeah. And I started to really think about it and my beliefs. And so the martial arts was a giant stepping stone, or an elevation of my mindset. And then once I joined Special Forces, it just was like, boom, because I started seeing other people that had these similar traits with their mindset, with their beliefs. They took ownership. They were willing to work. You'd say, oh, you can't climb that rope, or, oh, you can't do it. And they're like, oh yeah, watch me. Or if they can't, they will in the future, like you said, with the pull-up. And seeing those people that were successful and amazing human beings that learned how to push themselves and take on challenges and have that mindset where they own their life and they don't make excuses. Things happen in life. Sometimes you're a victim. We're all victim of things at any point. It's part of the human condition. So if you're out there and you're stuck in a victim mentality, realize you're not alone. We've all had bad things happen to us. But guess what? You're in control whether you stay a victim or not. Because if you keep having that same victim belief go through your head and, oh, I can't because of this, or this bad thing happened to me, or I'm in this situation because someone else put me here, you've given up control. Now you are not your greatest asset. You're a liability, and you don't want to do that. So through my life, getting back to your question, there was no one key moment. It was a compounding growth of just being watered mentally by these great people and having the self-awareness. That's another thing people need to realize. If you really want to grow, you got to take some time to yourself, whether it's meditation, go out in nature, or whatever it is you need to do to connect with yourself and your being through prayer or whatnot. You have to spend that time. If you want to better your life, you got to better yourself.
You know, when you mentioned awareness, my mentor, who's been on the show several times, Randy Weitenheimer, he's a martial artist. And when he teaches and mentors and stuff like that, first thing is awareness. Like, you need to be aware of you and what's going on. And that way, when you're aware, you're able to observe yourself and make those changes. Now, when you were going through the Q course, was there any challenging moments? Was there any moments that were, any moments where you were considering quitting, where you weren't sure if you were going to make it through, where there was failure or anything like that, where there was a struggle? And then how did you overcome that?
So yeah, there was tough times for me. Luckily, I was pushed really hard by my dad, blue collar, growing up in New England, working out in the cold and the snow, and having to push myself mentally. Mentally, it wasn't really extremely challenging for me. It
Mm-hmm.
was more physically challenging for me.
Okay.
I'm in good shape. I'm a big guy and whatnot. But when you go through that type of training, it doesn't matter. You're going to be tired. You're not eating right. You're pushing your body beyond what you thought were the limits. And I tore a muscle in my leg, and it was probably, I don't know, towards the end of a course in one of the phases. And at the end of the phase, we had to do the PT test, and you needed to pass at such standards. And I'm like, oh man, I took a bunch of Motrin, like most military and army people do, to suck it up. But I was really worried my body wouldn't hold up. I mean, there were guys that were med dropped all the time throughout the course,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. They had stress fractures, or they hurt themselves, or, just they tore an ACL, or who knows what happened. But so
Right.
that was my biggest fear and challenge. And I ended up, luckily, because I made it through the course and got my certificate for that phase, or passed, they allowed me to go to the med shed, or see the doctor, med call, sick call. And I got checked out, and they're like, oh yeah, he's got a torn muscle. It was my rectus femoris head. I didn't even know there was a rectus femoris head. But so I tore that, and it took a while to heal. They let me heal up, and then I moved forward again, and I was able to make it. Yeah, that was probably the biggest challenge for me, was just hoping and praying that my body would stay together, and luckily it did.
And that is something that's out of your control. Like, that is just your body, like, like that, like Coach Mack would say a lot in training. He was like, at some point, like, it becomes an act of God if you don't make it in terms of an injury. And like, it's like, that's just, and then if you can roll back and go through, great. But some things, and that's challenging. What would you say in terms of an asset mindset for um something that happens to you that is out of your control, like an act of God? I suddenly don't have a leg, or sudden, like, now what can I do? Where can I move? How can I move? Where can I go? Because, you know, you do have to accept where you are. I think,
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest things for me when I was 21, I lost all hearing in my left ear, and I was completely deaf. There was no hearing aid able to help me because there was no hearing there. It was just gone. And I wouldn't accept it. I just wouldn't. I was like, no, there has to be a way that I could get it back. Like, and I did all these tests and I did so many things. I went to see the number one ENT doctor in the world. Okay. Flew out to see him, all this stuff. And then at some point I was like, you have to just accept where you're at. Right. I did regain my hearing 10 years later, 85% of it. But you know, after that point, I was ready to go for the 100. And then, like, my mentor at the time was like, just like, be grateful where you are. Like, like, accept where you are. So, how does, so can you touch base on something like that in terms of like, something happens to you that's completely out of your control and what it would be like to have an asset mindset for a time in your life like that?
Well, I'm going to use and lean on a bunch of my SF brethren for this one because they've been shining examples of this. I talk about Rami Camargo in my book, and he's, paralyzed, and he could have just stayed at home and complained. And I was a Ranger, former Green Beret, and now look at me, I'm stuck in this wheelchair and been depressed. But no, he used that to ignite his passion or a calling within him, and he runs Stay in Step Spinal Institute. Ryan Hendrickson stepped on an IED. He blew his foot apart really bad. They didn't even know if they could save the limb, and they did some experimental stuff and was able to save it. He went back to active duty. Now he does tip of the spear landmine removal. Nick Lavery lost his leg. He's still going, still doing things. So I think of those obstacles, and everybody has different faith, but I think God has a plan for all of us. And sometimes those things happen to redirect us. And it can also be in relationships. Myself, open and honest, I was married in the military with somebody else. I got divorced. It was horrible. I was very upset at the time, but ultimately it ended up being the best thing for me because I have now an amazing wife, 3 children that I didn't have before. And I wouldn't change a thing. So sometimes those bad things you go through, and don't just take it from Daniel Fielding and the asset mindset, because the truth is the truth. I just named 3 other people that went through amazing things, and they say, you know what? I'm glad it happened to me. I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about life. So that is what you need to do in applying the asset mindset when something bad happens to you. Do like your mentor, step back, have some self-awareness and be like, okay, what can I learn from this? Where's the silver lining? Okay, I'm going to learn I need to push and work harder. Maybe I haven't been working hard enough in life. And, you have an injury, you get in a car accident. Now you got to go through rehab to learn to walk again. Well, maybe you weren't exercising enough. And, that kind of happened to teach you how lucky you were to be able to walk around in mobility and how blessed you are to go around the world and just be able to move around on your own. You had to relearn that, but now you're so much more grateful and appreciative, or maybe you start helping other people with rehab. So when you have something bad happen to you, yeah, it sucks. I'm not going to say it doesn't. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be negative. The old saying, when life gives you lemonades, lemons make lemonade. It's that type of thing. And you can shift. And I call it a page master technique also in my book. If you remember me talking in the chapters about that, where, you can have whatever playing in your head, whatever thought, you can keep reading that same page, that same victim thing, or, oh, this horrible, or, oh, I can't, or whatever. Be a page master and turn the page in your head to something more positive, your next goal, or gratitude. What are you grateful for? Because if you're still alive, there's something you can be grateful for. You can look outside. Hey, there's a blue sunny sky outside. Or, hey, look, my mom, my dad, my sister, my wife, my kids, somebody loves me. They're there for me, even in this time of struggle. So there's always something you can be grateful for. And gratitude is probably the most powerful tool for when you're struggling in a bad moment, because switching to that page of gratitude in your head will absolutely change your mindset 100%. You cannot be down and out and feeling like crap if you're thinking about things you're grateful for. The mind doesn't work that way.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Thrivers Coffee. Podcast guest Nick McKinley's company, Deliver Fund, brings you guys Thrivers Coffee. It is ethically sourced, it's organic, and it supports traffic survivors. That is right. Thrivers Coffee is all about empowering us to making a difference in the fight to end human trafficking. That's why 100% of the proceeds go directly towards their goal of bringing freedom to victims of human trafficking. So if you guys love coffee that is organic, ethically sourced, and tastes absolutely delicious, and want to help to end the fight of human trafficking, check out Nick McKinley's company, Thrivers Coffee. We talked so much about your book, and what would you say is like the chapter or the section that you wish everyone would like memorize?
The chapter, there's so much. I would say the last chapter because it summarizes the whole book. Read chapter 12. Yeah, I would say that would be the chapter because it's keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple in that terms too. Like it is just breaking it down into pretty much 3 steps for the asset mindset. Number 1, you're going to take ownership and realize you are your greatest asset in life. Nobody can help you more than you can help yourself. 2, you're going to surround yourself in positive environments with positive people that are doing good things. And then number 3 is you just be a positive person and an asset to others. You do those 3 things, that's a recipe for success, having a positive mindset and just having a successful life. You're going to have ups and downs. I mean, it's not sunny every day, but it also doesn't rain every day too. So, it's the ebb and flow of life.
What's the difference between like someone who wants it and someone that actually like does it? Like, do you know, I feel like, right, there's so many people that want this. There's so many people that listen to the show and that, or that, want to be in special forces or elite and all that stuff, but they do not take the steps to get there. What do you think it is that holds people back from actually becoming the person that they want to be?
Their why, purpose, passion. I think passion and purpose right there are just, if you're not passionately wanting something or you don't have the why that ignites your passion, why are you going to go through the hard things? Like if your goal is strong enough that you really want it and you have a purpose, what are you not going to do? Does your purpose outweigh the negative or the struggle? If you wanted to be able to do that pull up, you're going to be like, oh, I can't and stop. But what'd you have to do? You had to keep pushing and working and working. It took a while and it wasn't easy, but you got there. And then that goes back to accomplishment. And I think a lot of this mindset stuff, it's weird. I use a snowball analogy a lot with people. You make a snowball and then you start rolling it and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what happens with having a positive mindset. If you're asleep in the world and you're just going through life and you're going to your job and you're not actually being active on working on yourself and working on your mindset, then yeah, it's hard to improve. But once you start having awareness, stepping back, giving yourself 20, 30 minutes a day to reflect on life. Hey, what was good that happened today? What could I do to improve? What am I grateful for? Those habits build momentum. And that right there, that's the greatest thing, I think, for people that achieve success is they know how to build momentum because that is just incredibly powerful, building that momentum. Like you're talking about writing a book. If you do a page every day, in a year, you're going to have a 365 page book. Just keeping that momentum going and building. Discipline is a big part of that. Discipline for yourself, for your life, and attaining a goal is key. I say, motivation is great. We can watch a movie, get motivated. We can read a book, get motivated. We can hear someone speak, get motivated. Woohoo! Motivation is easy. Discipline is the glue that holds your plan, your life, and everything together.
Or you could start it and then you fall off, right? And then start it and then you fall off. And it's just being consistent. And it took me a really long time to understand it's the journey. It's just experiencing life. I think about it, we talk about this journey to the destination. I just think all life is a journey with all these different, accomplishments, because I remember when I first did my pull-up and I was like doing it in front of the team and I was with them and, there's no expression. It's just not. Like when we went to go and when I couldn't do a pull up, I thought everyone was laughing at me and making fun of me and all. No, they just lifted me up and taught my body how to do a pull up, right? Not a word. No one was judging at all. And not out loud anyway, right? And I'm working and working and working. And then I go and do it like months to do it, right? And I guess I just thought like I'd get a parade, like, and then I go and do it. I jump down from that pull up bar. I turn around to get back in line. And I'm thinking like, they're going to high five. They're going to clap. This took me forever. No, like, no. And it's like, you made it, like you did it, right? You're part of the team. But, and then you get there and you're like, oh, that was it. And then you just keep going. And I think the thing is sometimes because the journey is so like, that's where all the work is, right? That's where all everything that you're accumulating for is for that destination. And when you get to that destination, it's just that short little moment in time, and yeah, it feels good. I mean, it felt amazing, and now when I talk about it, especially at school, it's always like have me do pull-ups and it feels good, but it's just understanding that whole entire journey as opposed to the just getting there, and I think for myself, it used to be, falling off and going back. I'm falling off and going back, and how, and I guess the thing is, it would be, do you have an exercise for those that are listening that do that, like whether it be like a journal or it's or something that they say in their mind or anything like that in terms of, and I know you mentioned the why and all that stuff and having that strong why, but is there something else that someone can do to really um, build that discipline?
I think one of the best things, and I talk about in the Army, we call them AARs, after action reviews. If
Oh,
before
yes.
you go to bed, you kind of review your day and then think about, so your last 24 and your next 24.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I mean, I love sticky notes. There's one right here, like I use them all the time. And you have your own system. Someone else
Mm-hmm.
will have their system. But before you go to bed, have goals for the next day. Very, very powerful. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people just are going through the motions, they're finally excited to go to bed or whatnot. You don't even need to spend a lot of time. You can be laying in bed with your eyes closed. Just think, all right, what did I do good today? What do I want to do tomorrow? And have those goals focused in your mind. So when you wake up the next day, I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there is a game changer because so many people just go through the motions or they're stuck in a routine. And we are all creatures of habit. Even myself, like I went from having one type of drink in the morning to then I'm doing these amino acids and whatever. And it's like, I don't even think about it anymore. I just get up and I do my little cocktail and boom, I'm good to go. But
Was it weird for you, like, at first?
yes,
To, like, switch up like, for me, I've noticed, like, when I go to the gym, I notice I'm parking in the same spot, right? And I'm like and there's a bunch of other spots, but for some reason, I'm always going there, or the same bathroom stall or something like that. It's just, and then that's where the awareness comes in, and I'm like, "Go to the next one." And I will, but there's a weirdness when I go there. It's just not the same as the first couple of times.
yeah, I think a lot of that, and when we're getting into like psyche and
Mhm.
psychology, is we know what's comfortable and feels safe. So
Right.
as soon as you put yourself in a different environment, now you're having, your brain's firing a little different. It's like, okay, this is a new environment, new place, and your body wants to be comfortable. It's a survival thing. Like,
Mhm.
hey, I slept on this cave or, under this tree. I've always been safe. I'm going back to that tree. Animals do the same thing. It's a survival thing that I think is very primal. And kudos to you for having the awareness to realize when you are being that just creature of habit and you're not changing or you're not pushing yourself. That is a giant leap forward. That's one of the things I get the most excited about when I talk to somebody and they make that breakthrough, because that is the biggest breakthrough. When you start having self-awareness and you look at yourself, you can step back. You can be objective. You can say, all right, what did I do wrong or what did I do good? Or what do I need to do to be better? Or, hey, I'm going down this road. Do I really want to be here? Let me think about this. That self-awareness is an incredible thing. And a lot of people really do not do it. How many times, some of your listeners out there, you've been driving home from work and you forgot that you just took 3 or 4 turns. You're like, oh, how did I get here already? Because you're on autopilot and you're not having the self-awareness that you need. If you really want to expand your life, expand your mindset, work on self-awareness, because that is the first step in game changer, or the first level up to get to the next levels.
I am so big with self-awareness. Actually, dated a Green Beret, and I
What, you dated a
would
Green Beret?
I did, and when I would leave, we would be together or something, and then he'd leave. I would assess myself, and I would like message him, and I'm like, yeah, or I'd call and I'd be like, yeah, I noticed my communication is lacking a little bit in this, and my goal for the next time. He's like, you are really self-aware of you were just to a T, like to a point where I am like, it was never him. Like it was just like in a sense of I never put it on him. Like you're bad at that. It was never that. It was always me. Like my self-awareness and my, how I can make improvements to have a stronger relationship, right? And I'm curious for you as a husband and a father, like has any of this have ever been challenged or refined?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely been challenged. I have a teenage son that's getting ready to turn 18. So that's definitely been a challenge. We're at a great spot now. I'm super proud of him. He's found his passion. But, there was a lot of button heads. And I would try and share my philosophy or the asset mindset with him. And he's like, most teenage young boys, 13, 14 years old. Yeah, dad, whatever, in one ear, out the other. And he was having trouble. He was hanging out with the wrong people. He actually got expelled from school and had to go to another school. I took everything away from him. I mean, everything. No video games. He's turning 18. He still has a flip phone now, which he had no phone for a while, but he's got a flip phone. And, it's making the story shorten up a little bit for you here, is he ended up saying this was the worst thing that ever happened to him. Because for 3 months, it was the worst thing, depression, anger, and whatnot. But in that time, I took everything away. He didn't have video games, no computers, no nothing. He picked up a guitar and he found his passion. And he's been playing the guitar now religiously, probably 4 to 6 hours on average every single day.
Wow.
And he is getting very good. And he attributes it all to the bad thing that happened and me disciplining him. And a quick side note too, I was actually doing a speaking gig out in Arizona, and I was blessed to be able to bring my whole family with me. And unbeknownst to me, I did not know he had talked to the gentleman that, ran the business that I was there speaking on behalf of or for. And he was like, hey, is it okay if I go on stage and talk about the asset mindset a little bit with my dad? I didn't know this. And he was like, yeah, I think that would be a great idea. You share. So I'm literally on stage with the microphone. And then my son's walking up on stage and I'm like, Henry, what are you doing? Like, this is a paid event. This is dad's work right now. Like, you can't just come up and interrupt. I'm like, oh, great. Am I going to, but it all worked out. He's like, can I say something? And I look over and I got the head nod from the gentleman. So I'm like, okay. I give him the phone and he goes, listen, I got to tell you right now, I know this is my dad, but I didn't listen to him with the asset mindset philosophy. I was resistant, didn't want to hear it. I was doing my own thing, thought I knew better. And he goes, guess what? Once I started listening, it changed my life. He made honor roll. Like he didn't make it. He had to stay back in 9th grade. And then he's never done well, never made honor roll. And he's made honor roll several times now. He's doing good at all the stuff he's doing because he approaches it with a different mindset. But yeah, he went on stage and said all that. And it was a great, moment for me. It was a little scary, but you know what? Some of the greatest moments in life are scary. But yeah, he impressed me. He's still impressing me. I'm proud of him for what he's doing. And it's not just him. So many people, I've had a few guests even on my podcast that share their story, how the asset mindset changed their lives.
Mhm.
It's absolutely incredible. And it's not just me, the asset mindset. I mean, the truth is out there. I'm just sharing my truth from my perspective, and it resonates with a lot of people. But the truth is the truth. You go listen to other people that are motivational speakers and whatnot. We're all going to give you pretty much the truth, just from different angles. And I suggest, you check out what I'm saying and the asset mindset philosophy and the book or the podcast, but don't just stop with me, because there's a lot of mentors out there that are willing to help coach and teach you. And sometimes it's just getting taught by a book or an article or a few words that are going to really shape and change your life.
So for a parent that might be listening to this, what was it that where their kid's not listening, like their teen, it's in one ear, out the other, right? What had him start listening to you? Was it that incident and then it was just I had nothing else? Like what? Because some kids might be like, I'm definitely not listening now. Like what
Mhm.
was the how like for a parent that might be going like, how can I get my kid to like listen, or how can I get my kid to like, because just him get understanding your philosophy, but not just understanding your philosophy, but just being open to that philosophy when, like you said, it's your dad, it's just like, how can a parent get their kid to, I guess, be open to, or be able to speak to their child in a way that is resonating? Like, how did it resonate for your son?
I think that's a fantastic question. And as parents, we want to just be able to tell our kid and share our knowledge. And you know what? There's times they're not going to listen. There's a
Mhm.
communication breakdown. He wouldn't listen to me. What changed was living by example, taking the lead, him actually speaking with somebody that was a former employee, I mean, not employee, coworker with me, and speaking to him. And he shared stuff that he'd seen me do and how I act and how I'm approaching things and just life. Because if you're living with the asset mindset, you're surrounding yourself with good people, you're being in good environments. So what really helped my son is other people that I had exposed him to. Andy saw how I was living, and then I was getting to be with celebrities, go hang out in a suite for a concert, or do all these things. And it was based upon my relationships, based upon my positive attitude, based upon helping people. I helped out with a fundraiser, ended up getting suite tickets for my whole entire family for Disney on Ice as like a thank you. And I didn't want them. I didn't try and get them. It was just to pay it forward, and you never know what you're going to get back. And that was a super blessing. And it felt good helping this foundation too. So there's so many different things when you're a parent, that are difficult to do and communicate with your kid. Just lead by example, because they're watching, and they're watching who you hang out with. And maybe let them listen to some of your friends or family members that you think are positive influences. Because if your communication is broken down, they're going to communicate with someone else. So if you have a positive person around, that'll be very helpful. And while we're on the topic of kids, I want to share, this
Mhm.
is an amazing story. My wife's like, you should share this every time. So, honey, I love you, and I'm sharing your favorite story. There was a gentleman whose daughter was struggling with anxiety and depression. He ended up picking up my book. It was like on a coffee table or end table or something. And he noticed after about a week, for some reason, his daughter started having a different attitude and different mindset. And he's like, something's different with you. Like, what's going on? And she was like, that book you had in the end table, The Asset Mindset? She goes, I picked that up. I've been reading it. And he goes, really? She goes, yeah, it's helping me quite a bit. Now, let's fast forward. That book, he told me, he ended up showing up at my work one time, and he goes, my book did more for his daughter than years of therapy, going and seeking therapy and paying for people to help her and do things. And so much so that he's a past Christmas, he bought 22 books or 24 books. I can't remember exactly, but for all his nieces and nephews, because he
Wow.
saw how much that book changed his daughter. And he can't thank me now. I actually saw him, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago. And him and his wife were again thanking me because their daughter is now doing well in school. A lot of her anxiety and depression, she took ownership of her life is what it comes
Right.
down to. Where before other people were coaching her like, oh, your poor feelings and oh yeah, it's tough or whatever, and feeding into that victim mentality or anxiety. And the asset mindset is not that. It pretty much tells you, you know what? Life's going to challenge you. You're going to have tough times. You're going to struggle. So you better get a mindset that's going to help you take on these struggles, how to overcome the struggles, because you're a human being. You're going to struggle. I struggle still. But guess what? I bounce back because of the asset mindset, my philosophy, and how I just approach things or turn the page to something like gratitude.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite parts is the fact that it's uh you d- life's hard. Like it's just like that's it. And like, we get it, right? But move on, right? Like let's go. And it's funny cuz I have a friend that I talked to him in January. January was like a tough month, but it wasn't because when you have that asset mindset, it's like, we just each thing is like okay, like turn the page, right? We're going to keep going. So he's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Something happened with this new company that I was doing." And he was like, "Great," in a negative. Like it was like,
Mm.
it's a lawsuit thing. And he was like, "Awesome. What else is going on?" And I'm like, just ran out of money because of all this. He goes, "Awesome. What else is going on?" And he was just like, everything was good, 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 because it was like, well, what's next? Like it was always like, okay, like and that's the one thing I liked is like when you're like good, you're like you're understanding like, okay, we understand, but let's keep moving. My family's thing we've always done. I have this what's it called? This program that I teach to business people, like I guess like a training course, right? And it's called Fish. And my family implemented this when we were young, where we would be walking in New York City, and you go one way or the other, straight or across, right? And the person that was leading the front, when you would get to the street, if it had the hand, they'd yell fish, and that means you had change, because when the hand was going in one direction, it was walking in the other, right? So they'd say fish. And that means that we all would move and go in that direction. Now, if the hand was still up, you just kept going. You didn't say anything in the whatever direction you were moving. But if the hand wasn't and the person was there, you'd yell fish. And every single time you have fish, it just meant you change direction, right? And the reason why it's called fish, why we would yell fish, is because what happens when a fish stops moving? It dies.
Mm.
So it's always keep moving, right? Always keep moving. And yeah, there's times you need to like especially like when you're like, oh, it's 2 seconds left. Let's stop. Let's gather and then let's go, right? But I love that part of your book, and that's what that reminded me of too, because it's like, yeah, we get it, but let's keep going. Like let's not stay in it. Let's turn the page. And it's very, very, very powerful. And I say this because before I even knew you in person, technically, like I picked up your book at Barnes and Noble, and I was like, this is an incredible book. And I think that if anybody takes anything from this, it's that exact thing. It's like, yeah, we get it. Like you're like life is gonna punch you. You just move. Like just move. What do you think you'd want listeners to take away from the asset mindset before I get into that final question? Because I just mentioned what I like from it. Do you have anything?
Well, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, I want people to feel empowered and
Yeah.
control, and that they
Mhm.
can change things. Yeah, you can't control everything in your life. Accept it and then control what you can. Don't just sit in your butt and be like, oh, this happened to me. Like, you have to keep moving forward. That's the biggest thing. And whatever it is you want to move forward towards, whatever goal, whatever dream, whatever relationship you want to have, just keep working on it. You're going to make progress. And as long as you're making progress every day, it's going to add up. Just understand there's going to be good days and bad days. Don't dwell on the bad days. And guess what? If you had a bad day, well, the odds of having multiple bad days in a row, it's like it can't rain every day. You might get a few days, in a row or whatnot. But normally, when the bad thing happens, it goes to reframing, like we talked about earlier. This means I'm going to have a good day coming up,
Right.
because I've had a bad day. And everybody knows not every day is your best day, not every day is your worst day. So it's going to change. And there is that ebb and flow of life. So the biggest thing with the asset mindset is I want people to understand they have control. They can put themselves in positive situations with positive people, and that they can be a positive person to others. And doing those things is game changing, life changing, and it's going to bless your life more than you would ever realize. Because I know it has for me. I never thought I'd be in $1 million home, having herds of cattle on a farm, 50 acres just outside of Nashville. It never thought it would happen when I was a kid, but here I am. Why? Because of the decisions I've made, the people I've put myself around, and just trying to be a positive person. Just like our relationship we're developing now. Like,
Yeah.
you do that, you're going to grow. So your listeners out there, absolutely, you can do it.
I love that. I love that. And, that was just, oh gosh, that was so good. I feel like that was the answer to that final question that I always ask everybody, but
you can still ask. Let's do it.
What can our listeners do on a daily basis that helps them strengthen their mindset to tackle these everyday challenges that are inevitably going to come our way?
I'm going to say, take some time to yourself. We talked about situational awareness a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Take some time for yourself. Go for a walk. Get the blood flowing. Let your mind think. Realize, ponder life, ponder things you want to do, ponder people you love, meditate, pray. Take time to yourself. Whatever means that you feel comfortable or at peace with, do that 20, 30 minutes a day. Doesn't have to be a lot, but that's something you can do that'll help you get your mind right, will help you stay focused on what's important in life, help you maybe find your why or reinforce your why if you already have a why. Mm-hmm. So give that time to yourself. And if you can do that, you're going to change your life.
I love the reinforce the why, because sometimes you lose, sometimes you forget why you started, right? Sometimes you forget that why in the first place. So that was really fantastic. Thank you so much. And thanks for being on the show. I was so excited to talk to you. And, you really, it was great. It was great. The bar was high and you hit it.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And thanks for being on the show. And I'm going to link the Asset Mindset podcast, the book, all that stuff in the show notes for everyone that is listening and that wants to get a hold of you. Your website is going to be there as well. Anybody that's listening, go and check out the book. It's available on Amazon. I got it at Barnes & Noble, but you can get it anywhere. If you go on Amazon, though, don't forget to leave that review. It's so important for us authors. So I'll just leave it there. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and join us over on the Substack. We are going to be putting some chapters in. My book is out. Chapters are on the Substack. We're going to put this final question in a chapter for the Substack as well. And come on over. It's a party. Thank you guys. And we'll see you all next Wednesday.
No.
Have a good day.